Hey, what is up everyone? Welcome back to another review, and today I'm taking a look at another 30-minute missions Armored Core 6 kit. This right here is the Weapon Set 1, so this is our second step towards having our own fully customized, unique Armored Core. So these are 4 new weapons for using with the 2 kits that are available right now, and the 2 more coming, and whatever's after that. And also I decided, because that's not a whole lot to review on its own, I'm going to take a look at a couple of 30-minute missions kits that came out very recently and how they work with Armored Core 30-minute missions. That is the customized weapons, Heavy Weapon 2, which is basically a big belt fed machine gun, and the 30-minute missions option parts set 16, which is an arm unit and leg unit 1. To see if we can use these with our armored cores as well for something that adds a little bit more of the standard 30-minute missions flavor into these kits. Anyway, as usual, I got all of this stuff through Hobby Link Japan. Link will be down there in the description. So first up in here, we're going to be taking a look at the Armored Core 6 Weapon Set 01. This is a set of 4 weapons, 2 shoulder, 2 handheld, and this right here is the box. It's like your regular sort of high-grade or 30-minute missions box, a lot thinner. On the sides, of course, you get all the information about what's going on inside of here and what you'll get when you're done. And inside the box, we do get 1 bag of runners as well as the instructions. So this is quite simple. The manual in here is one of those fold-out pamphlet styles. It shows you what you've gotten here and an example of it on 2 different 30-minute missions, Armored Core 6 mechs. Once we blast open those packets, we've got the 2 runners that are in here, one of which has both of the shoulder units and one of which has both of the handheld units. Finally, then we do have a 3rd runner, which is this little effect part, which is very, very nice. And right on into the present right now, this is what you get when everything is built. So we're going to start off in the order that you build them in the manual with this thing right here. This is the VP66LR laser rifle. It's made up of 3 parts. That is one side of the rifle, the other side of the rifle, and the scope is a separate little section that slots in. It all sandwiches together super simply. So I'm going to be blasting these onto steel haze right here instead of nightfall, because it is the orbiter on the box that these are attached onto, which essentially is just a grey nightfall. So let's try them on steel haze. I'm also going to try at least the handheld weapons in the reverse way than they are on the box, just to see how things work. So that means I am going to be attaching the long range weapon onto this side right here, as opposed to the short range one. This is one of those weapons with a extended handle like this, so it means you can't just slide into the hand, you do have to disassemble. So popping this into the hand is the usual kind of way. You just pop the weapon into the fingers, then pop the fingers onto the hand, and that right there is what it looks like attached. Now, I will also mention right here, you can use it in the upper rack, so I'm going to remove the melee weapon, which is attached up here, and get that weapon attached in to that spot, just like so. And that right there is what it will look like attached up on the shoulder. Overall, the rifle looks very nice. It is very nicely detailed and the same as what we would have seen in the 2 full kits we've seen so far. I will mention, however, because it is primarily 2 pieces stuck together, there is a little bit of a seam line run up the entire length of it, but it's not the worst ever. Moving on through the instructions now, and the next weapon we have in here is the laser dagger. This builds up as quite an impressive amount of parts. There's a lot of building to this. From what I can see so far, and I'm going to test out in a second, this can be built as a left or right hand weapon, so hopefully that will work out perfectly, and overall it is nice. There is 2 alternate parts for the extended blade or the retracted blade, and also the energy blade. So quite a few options with this weapon. So this right here is the weapon deployed, but the blade is not the energy blade. It is actually flicked out from in here, and that is what it looks like. I will mention that it does just say about a left-hand build in the manual. We'll see about a right-hand build in a second. The stowed away version, as in the non-deployed version, is, well, it exists, if you know what I mean. There is no missing parts like we would have seen with the pile bunker on the Nightfall, that you can't build both versions, but you can build both versions of this particular weapon. And if you do want to switch this to the energy version, you just pop that out and then pop that one in like so. Alright, so back to our buddy Rusty right here, and we can't really break the rules by actually using this left hand on the same weapon as, or should I say on the same arm as a attached weapon, but you know, if you wanted to, you can do that. So we're going to be blasting over to this arm, so removing that burst pistol like so. Sadly, you are always stuck with open hands on these kits when not using a weapon. And like I said, in the manual, this assembles as a left hand weapon, or should I say as a right hand weapon. But I'm just going to see if we can flip absolutely everything around. It seems like everything is mirrorable because the parts pass directly through, so I'm just gonna try and do the exact same thing. just with everything the other way around. So it does seem like it's fully reversible. And just getting this lashed onto Rusty, and absolutely friggin' not. So there is no hole. If you do attach this hand on, there is no hole on the right arm underneath the kind of hand armor. If I jump over to this side right here and just pluck this off, you will see that there is a hole in the arm that is not present on the other side, so these melee weapons can only go on the left arms. Alright, so a little bit of rejiggering on here. Left arm has been prepared for the melee weapon. This, of course, is accurate to the game. You can only have melee weapons on the left arm, and that right there is what it looks like when it is deployed, doing some slashing. But yeah, now that Rusty's done doing the slashing, let's just throw on the nice, neat, tucked away, not so slashy version. So now moving on to the first shoulder weapon, and that is the plasma missile launcher. Now this is made out of a whole ton of parts. First off, you're starting off with two halves of an internal section, then you start building on some of the detail, the outer shell aspects, and the parts that will be attaching it onto either or shoulder. Now this is reversible, so you can have it right or left, and if you do want two of these, of course you will have to buy two of the kits. It's a very nice design, and a whole lot builds up on it. This right here is what it looks like complete, so a lot of nice surface detail, a lot of detailing on it that you, well, definitely should put a little bit of effort into bringing out. This side and this side are swappable, so that will make it mirrored for popping onto the other shoulders. Nothing opens or does anything fancy or anything like that, it is just one big static piece. The only moving part is this little aspect right here. Getting this attached on is simply just remove half of the shoulder weapon that is on here already. Now, I will mention you won't be able to do this on the left-hand side in Rusty right here because it doesn't come with one of these little arms from the right-hand side like we would have seen with Nightfall, and what it says in the manual does come with the orbiter. So there is a little bit of a missing part here. When it is attached on, it looks like this. Again, very, very nicely detailed and a very sizable weapon. Again, the instruction seems to be leaning towards you using this on the orbiter because, like I mentioned, you need to use this little bit of an arm that's in under here. On Rusty, we do not have one of those on the other sides because the little kind of shoulder rack has a downwards pointing one of these here attachment guys. So that means it would not be compatible because you don't have one of these included in the option set. There's a little bit of a closer look, and again, very, very nicely detailed, but it would look so much better if you brought out some of those panel lines with a little bit of ink or something like that and detailed up some of the elements on it, but otherwise out of box, extremely, extremely nice. The last weapon in here is another shoulder weapon, can be made left or right once again, and this is the laser drone. This is a little bit simpler, two parts, a little bit of a segment that pops into the back of it, a front segment, and some armor then that builds up and around it very nicely. Whether it's left or right just depends on what arm you attach into it, both are included. And once it is assembled, this right here is what you get. There is the front end, there is the side again, extremely nicely detailed, and there is the back. Now, of course, the biggest disappointment with this is there's nothing really with it. It's just a solid piece, again, with a little bit of rotation like so. In-game, this actually fires out little kind of fin funnel, little autonomous shooty bots. And this does not come with any little shooty bots or anything like that. It's just a solid piece. And before I get to even mention it, there is some leftover parts inside of this box, but these are just the kind of little bits and pieces that make things either left or right versions. So another little bit of a hitch we run into right here is the fact that Rusty, like I mentioned, does not have that other little piece that matches this on the other side like we would have seen with Nightfall. So we're going to have to grab Nightfall. It is most definitely a little bit of a weird move to have a whole piece missing from a kit that, you know, you do need for the rear weapons, and not to include those little bit of a stick pit right there with the option set in case a kit doesn't come with it. So a little bit of an oversight, definitely. Hopefully later on we will see those little sticks sold separately, well, in case there is any other kits like Steel Haze that do not have it. So anyway, that right there is what it looks like attached, and again, it is a little bit sad that we do not have any kind of little funnel things to kind of display flying around the place. That would have been nice. Definitely a little bit simple, but still nice. So yeah, there we go. That is pretty much everything. Once again, the take-home message from this is Rusty cannot equip a left-hand shoulder weapon without, well, stealing a part from another kit. These really have the orbiter in mind, so that does mean they will work right here with Nightfall, but I guess you're meant to build your own kind of custom orbiter with these weapons. Anyway, there's one thing I would like to see in future from Bandai. I actually thought I had them handy, but I do not. But basically, there used to be these things called system weapons by Bandai. They're little Bandai weapon sets that you could put together with real grade level of quality. They were so cool. So sad they stopped happening and got discontinued. Each of those came with like a little weapon rack that you could throw the weapons onto. And then you have a little weaponry wall. I used to use them before, but they're kind of a little bit cluttery to some degree. If they were a little bit simpler than real grade, then maybe they'd hold together, well, better. Basically something to rack your weapons up on where you're not using them on these kits. That would be nice to see. Anyway, on to the other stuff. So what we're going to be taking a look at next is a typical 30-minute missions weapon set. We're going to be seeing how well this works with 30-minute missions armored core. This is the customized weapons heavy weapon 2. What I've gotten here is basically a heavy machine gun and a shield with a backpack. The heavy machine gun has a bipod. The backpack has the drums for the ammunition, I assume. Some thrusters, everything can be used in various different ways, and a rubbery ammo belt that attaches the machine gun to the backpack. We also have a giant shield in here too. These all build up as a series of elements. Like I've always called 30-minute missions like a mecha Lego. You basically build all the individual pieces and they can be put together in whatever way they want. That does result in them looking a little bit funny. They're full of holes and covered in joints. So a lot of the time they don't look as serious business as something like gunpla or 30-minute missions armored core. They are a series of elements. They build up as a series of elements. The arms just look like a series of parts. All the parts in general, besides some aspects, do look very, well, geometric and full of holes. The weapons are the same, they build up in elements. I will mention that the belt in this kit is nice and rubbery. It just attaches into some slots like so. You can pretty much attach it into any slot. The shield is big and cool, and let's check everything out. And this right here is pretty much our, well, everything that came in the pack. I think I attached, well, mostly everything together. I was going to attach the shield on here as well somewhere, but I did not. So yeah, all the elements here. I'll just disconnect this here machine gun first. We do have a backpack with thrusters. Of course, you can use everything here independently. If you just like the thrusters with those little bit of a guard sections on them, which is also a C-clip joint. It's a joint to a C-clip attachment with 2 holes up top, a hole down the bottom. So these can be used as elements in and of themselves or just attached on somewhere with the various little kind of like extra joints again in here. Like this is just a 4-way attachment with a hole in the middle. This is the rest of that particular runner, so you do have a handle segment for attaching bits on. These are all extra parts, by the way. We've got some joint things to make whatever kind of chain of joints you want. We've got these things, which are great. These are caps for over those kind of unsightly 3mm holes to get all over the place. And we do have some little extenders and kind of modifying adapter aspects. That means you can just grab any of these, pop it onto your thruster, and then you can extend that on and stick it on somewhere. Again, sometimes it is kind of hard to build these that they don't kind of look a little bit funny, but kind of funny in that Lego-y-esque kind of way that they still look cool within their own kind of stylized way. We also have a little bit of a ray dome up here as well. You can do whatever you want with that. It's just attached on via a C-clip. Actually, no, that's just a kind of grabby 3mm grabby hook kind of thing. And this, boing. But anyway, grabbing Nightfall here in all of its beautiful mecha glory. Although, well, already telling you that these things aren't 100% compatible. There is a lot of issues I can already see that just won't work out. Anyway, moving the pile bunker, attaching on in this weapon. So as you can see, the hands are exactly this same size as regular 30-minute mission, so absolutely straight away we do have that level of compatibility. As you can tell, it's again not as seriously engineered, designed mechanical coolness as what we see from the weapons in Armored Core. It is a little bit more toy-like looking. We've got an extra handle up top if you want to dual hold that, and a nice little bipod down bottom. Now, you can just pop this off, and that slot right there just fits with any other 30-minute missions weapon. Now, I have a whole ton of videos about these, so if you want to check them out, and the modular aspects of the weapons, which is really cool, I've got lots of videos on here you can see that stuff in. They're a lot of fun. You can get lost in it. Maybe a little too lost. Too many parts. It's fun, but crazy, and messy. However, the first wall we'll run into with something like this is the fact that this right here is the standard gunpla adapter on the back for a Gundam-style backpack. Now, one thing I do feel they kind of missed or dropped the ball on, or should I say, could have done something with these kits, is have something removable on the back that these would have the 2-prong Gundam backpack in there, but they did not do that, probably to maintain the design. Probably better off for it, honestly, design-wise. But that does mean this will not just attach on. So we're going to have to do something involving the kind of typical armored core attachment point up here. So we do have a 3mm hole, so we've got something we can work with. So yeah, with a little bit of pulling off of this and a little bit of pulling off of that, there's enough elements on this to kind of get yourself a little bit of a build going as to how to get this to work. However, you do find out sometimes some things aren't compatible like so, but the kit does include some adapters so you can bap, and then once you have that done, you're kind of gonna figure out how you're going to attach it around back, get that little wiggly band belt feed kind of segment in and under, and in the end, this right here is what I got. So there is that big old heavy machine gun, looking not too bad. Little bipod section in the front, that belt goes in underneath to that little ammo container around back attached onto this segment. Now I did want to attach it heavy arm style going like this way, but where this band actually, or should I say belt, attaches in kind of stops you from attaching it the way that it would be nice to. You could, well, maybe try to rearrange it a little bit like that. Actually, that's a little bit neater. Yeah, that's not too bad. And that right there is what it looks like from the front. So there's a little bit of customization with that weapon. Now, as for what else is inside of this box, well, I suppose at this point you can kind of get a bit experimental. I wanted the ray dome up on the shoulder somewhere, but again, there's not a lot of attachment points 3mm wise on this kit. I rearranged the little drum on the back a little bit so it could still attach into the weapon, but I had a little bit of attachment point on top. Popped the ray dome on there with a little bit of a hinge, and there we got some kind of targeting array up on the shoulder. As for anything else, there's the big old shield. That might be nice to attach onto the only real hard point we have, which is on the left hand for the melee weapons. So I just popped it on just like so. And this right here is what I got in the end. So we now have a nice big heavy machine gun, a giant shield up on the shoulder, the ammo back here with that targeting ray dome, and if you felt crazy, I suppose you could probably attach these here thruster sections onto the back of the arm for, I don't know, extra shield thrust, because that would make sense, or onto the front as a kind of like cannon kind of section. There isn't, again, a lot of places to attach these on like your average 30-minute missions, but that is one idea of what you can get. These are about, well, fairly compatible with some limitations. So the last thing we're going to be taking a look at today is a 30-minute missions options part set. This is part set 16, arm, leg, unit 1. So this is basically parts to add onto a body of a 30-minute mission, so we'll see how something like this works. So this is a little bit of a bigger kit than we would have seen before. We've got 2 bags of runners in here, pamphlet style instructions. This builds up again as a series of elements. This is really the core of most 30-minute missions kits. A bunch of elements, and then they all attach together in the end. The central aspect of this does have the neck, shoulders, and hip joints of your typical 30-minute missions, just not in the same typical layout. It has its own kind of set of hips as well, which is simple but different. And when it comes to the limbs in here, you've got a type 1 build and a type 2 build for each of the aspects, that being the legs and the arms. The arms build up in the usual kind of 30-minute missions kind of way. If you don't know that, it's kind of the bicep area, then whatever's going to be on the forearm, and then a kind of locking C-clip kind of elbow joint. Same kind of down in the legs as well. All the elements build up, like I said, like elements, and when it comes to the final putting together of bits, we have one arm that's kind of like a tube missile launcher, one arm which has a grabby claw kind of section at the end that's fully articulated. One leg is a thick, almost kind of nightingale kind of leg, nightingale from Gundam. And the other one is kind of an open thruster style vernier kind of longer leg than the thicker one we would have seen. All of these stuff can be attached onto the base unit to build a kind of simple robot, and this is what it looks like. And here he is in all of his glory. Now, I will mention that if you're not accustomed to 30-minute missions, no, they don't normally look like this. This is kind of just, again, an array of parts just slapped together into a funny, simple bot. It is a nice bot. That's an interesting, cool head. It does have a normal neck. This can be attached onto 30-minute missions at the neck or onto their little supplementary robots called Roys. And this is, again, like I mentioned, optional legs and optional arms just attached into a funny little vehicle thing. As you can see, all those little holes all over the place. Everything is a kind of little joint. I mean, everything. If you zoom in on some of the parts, you've got every kind of joint you could possibly have on this, including these little segments right here, which are for attaching on the old school 30-minute missions kind of upper foot armor. So there is a lot to it, and the hip joints are up on the shoulders. So yeah, there is a lot of kind of leftover parts because of the optional assemblies in here. Some of them can be used as units outright, but a lot of them are missing the actual 30-minute mission style joints, which are the knees, the elbows, hips, and the shoulders. I did assemble 2 different types of arms. That's this one right here with the little missile launcher kind of section. Again, absolutely covered in adapters and pieces. And this one right here, which is a kind of cool manipulator. This one opens up very nicely. Opens up just like so, closes like that. You could have this coming over the shoulder of something or anything like that. This is a cool little arm in its own right. And I did just build the legs as these ones because I thought these were a little closer to Armored Core, and I mean a little closer than these kind of hovery Vernier style legs. But yeah, let's see how they work out. One thing's for sure, those legs will not work with Steel Haze, so we're going to be going with Nightfall. Can't wait to get the Orbiter. That's going to be a lot of fun to actually test bed some stuff on. Alright, so test first is the head. So let's see if we can pop that head off. That didn't feel good. Apparently it's fine, but that was that bad mix of too easy and too hard at the same time. That usually means something is broken, but thankfully it isn't. So the head does fit. So if you want a really simple kind of head on your robot like that, you can do that. Next up, trying the arms. Just kind of eke that out. They pop out like so. I will mention these are polycap shoulders, so they're not the same weight. No, they're not polycap shoulders. It's only in the hips that are kind of polycap-esque. So flip that around and see if they kept the 30-minute missions joint. The answer is, I think they did, but it's a little bit on the tight side. So 30-minute missions joint at the shoulder confirmed, albeit a little bit tight. So you can go with this weapon, or we can go with the arm that does have these kind of built-in rocket launcher bits. Again, these can be used in kind of any way. If you ignore all the back there, you can just pop this on as a weapon unit onto pretty much anything that has a hole in it. So yeah, the arm does work. If you want yourself some kind of repaired kind of junk mech, you can do that with this. Finally then, checking out the legs. This is the only kit out of these so far, only kit out of the, well, fucking 2, that actually has some kind of standard-esque waist to it. That does mean the 30-minute missions legs have that kind of peg as well, so that slides in absolutely perfectly. So as you can see, 30-minute missions compatibility at least with the Nightfall right here. Again, the hips are completely different in the Steel Haze. Whoops, hit the camera. They're different in the Steel Haze, so they're ball joints that definitely will not work. So this is definitely all working out. Check that. Oh, I might as well go the whole way and just take off the other arm. Pop that off like so. Pop this one on like that one there. Again, these are kind of tight. I'm not forcing them in all the way, so I don't actually have articulation in these at the moment. I don't want to strain any joints. They do fit, but they feel a little tight. You might want to sand those down ever so slightly, but they definitely do fit. Get it into a little bit of a pose. Like I mentioned, not attached in all. Ooh. Anyway, there we go. Yeah, technically, they do not fit. The arms, that is. If I grab this little torso right here we were using, and then use the shoulders from the Steel Haze, you can see that they do fucking fit. Never mind. Yeah, that fits absolutely perfect. Let's build the stuff onto this. This is what I mean about you can completely get lost in the build of these particular kits. The hips on this are way more shallow than your typical 30-minute missions, so keep that in mind. Popping them on. This is working out way better than I thought it would. Damn. This right here really is summing up one of those moments in game where, you know, you get a new torso that looks like absolute bullshit, but the stats are really good and it fits with basically the weapon set that you want to use, or you're trying to bring down the overall weight and you throw on a really crappy looking part. That is really capturing that moment right there. It's not the worst, really. If you painted that up to match, that would look definitely like an Armored Core mech. That's actually got me a little bit now. We need a pair of shoulder weapons just to get that full Armored Core feel. All right, so there's a little bit of a stored shoulder weapon built out of 30-minute missions parts. Just grab some of these things off. I'm just going to beast them, animal them off the runner because my nipper's nowhere nearby. Chain together in the plasma missiles or whatever they were off of the Steel Haze and pop them in like so. Oh, that's kind of ridiculous. There we go. Look at that. Discount Armored Core, just expanding it. Expanding this kit into 2 robots just with these parts. Just grab yourself some nice Nightfall beige paint, paint them up, and you've got yourself a couple of weird junker bots that actually turned out way better than I expected. So yeah, that right there is it for the review. I would almost say stay away from 30-minute missions. Not because it's bad, because it's the complete antithesis of bad. It's so much fun. They're so addictive. You're going to buy one, especially some of the nicer new ones. Not really like the old ones like the Altos and stuff. And then add some extra parts. Then you're going to need some more parts, and then you're going to add on more, and it just gets addictive what you can build. Some people out there build absolutely obscenely cool stuff out of them, and they do work well with Armored Core as well for that extra little bit of fun. Anyways, always thank you so much for watching. I got these through Hobby Link Japan, link in the description. As always, make sure to come back for more gunpla reviews, and I will see you next time. As always, I can't finish this video without special thanks to those who support the channel on the memberships as well as over on Patreon, including Abraxas, Caleb Engelhardt, Joe, RG59061, Shadow Wolf 179, 10 Soldier YT, and Van Fawn.